Hello everyone and welcome to episode 14 of the PvM Hub. If you're unfamiliar with the series, these are a collection of beginner-friendly revolution guides geared towards teaching the very basics of RuneScape 3 PvM. These guides are by no means optimal, but simply a good starting off point for those just starting on their PvM journey. Make sure you stay tuned until the end to find out how you can be included in the next series I plan on releasing very soon. Today, we'll be looking at the second of the elite dungeons, the Dragonkin Laboratories. The Dragonkin Labs consist of 3 different boss fights separated by sections of trash mobs. The biggest draw are the melee codexes that each boss drops: Mutated Fury, Flurry, and Barge. The labs can be done in groups of 1, 2, or 3, but the drop rate of the uniques decreases pretty heavily the more people are in a group. This guide will focus on beating ED2 solo, but everything I'm about to cover will work in duos or trios as well. We also won't be focusing too much on the trash mobs between the bosses. I will do my best to tell you where to stand and what to kill, but the guide is focusing mostly on interacting with the bosses and their mechanics. As always, this guide will be broken up into a few different sections, those being the recommendations and requirements, setting up your revolution bar, the important facts and mechanics of the fight, and then a full fight breakdown. In terms of requirements, there are none. However, you're going to have a bad time if you jump into this at too low of a level. For my recommendations, I'm going to suggest we do this with Mage. Range is also equally viable, but melee will be a bit more difficult as you won't be able to react to any of the melee attacks the bosses hit you with, and you can lose a lot of health very quickly that way. I'd recommend base 90s in the combat style of your choice. Like always, it is possible with less than this, especially in groups, but since we're focusing on revolution and only activating key abilities, we're going to stick with this high of a recommendation. I'd recommend at least 70 prayer and having augury unlocked. As always, curses will be much better here if you can get them. For summoning, you can bring a Beast of Burden if you feel you're taking too much damage, so either a Spirit Terror Bird or a War Tortoise will work just fine at 52 or 67 respectively. You may also want 80 Herblore at a minimum, so you can boost and make super anti-fires. These aren't needed, but they will help a ton with the trash mobs you'll encounter. It's also advisable to get 85 Herblore, so you can boost and make extended super anti-fires so that they last 12 minutes instead of 6. Invention perks like Precise, Equilibrium, and Aftershock are all going to be awesome here, as well as things like Enhanced Devoted on your armor, or Relentless or Crackling. If you have Invention unlocked and don't know what perks you should have on your armor, in your game chat, type /wiki optimal PvM perks, and it will take you to one of the most helpful wiki pages in the whole game. If you don't have Invention unlocked, that's totally fine, but just understand you will be taking more damage and dealing less. There's also going to be a healthy amount of shield switching in this video, so if you're unfamiliar with that, I've left a time card in the top right to take you to my Vindictive video where I go into a lot more depth about it. From here on out, I'm going to assume that you're comfortable with it. In terms of gear and supplies, this is what I'll be bringing along for the fight. I'm wearing full Subjugation, which is tier 70 melee power armor. I'm using an Abyssal Wand and Orb. I have a Mage Arena 1 cape as well as an Illuminated Book of Law. If you don't have the book, feel free to use a Sign of Life here instead. Your inventory is subject to change as you go through the whole dungeon, but this is kind of a cookie cutter setup that you can emulate. I'm bringing 3 Restore Flasks, my stat boosting potion, a Gothic Staff from the Mage Arena, and the runes I need to cast the highest level spell that I can. I also have a shield with me for shield swaps, and the rest of my inventory is full of food. I like to have a combination of green blubber jellyfish and beltfish whenever I go through this, as they're both cheap and effective. For your revolution bar, we're going to use our standard dual-wield mage bar, which looks like this. Something that we should talk about with this guide is how and when to cancel your concentrated blast ability. Currently, it's best to cancel concentrated blast after the second hit, so it should look something like this. If you want to increase your DPS, this would be a great place to start. Other abilities that can be really helpful here are the Corrupted Blast ability from the Mazcap ability codex, and Tsunami to clear the large wave of trash mobs you'll be taking on. If you have the Concentrated Blast ability, it should be first in your revolution bar, as it is a very strong ability for this dungeon. Tsunami should be outside of the bar and be able to be manually activated, as it's not good if it doesn't hit a bunch of targets. First things first, I'm going to rapid fire break down some of the trash mobs you see in this dungeon and how to deal with them. Slimes. They replicate into a bunch of smaller versions of themselves when hit. Devotion is great here when praying either melee or range. Deal with large masses of them with abilities like Detonate or Tsunami. Dragons. Red and black dragons are just normal dragons. Make sure your anti-fire is up, and pray mage when DPSing them down. Chaos Dwarves are very similar to the slimes. Group them up, pray melee, and use devotion. AoE abilities work great here. Animated books. They attack with range and pretty substantial damage if you're not on prayer. Otherwise, they're very squishy. Gemstone Dragons have a special ability where they will heal themselves, use a stun when the text box pops up, and you will stop them from healing further. Lava Spiders attack with range and are most dangerous in a large swarm. They're very squishy and very susceptible to devotion. Lava Strikeworms can attack using all 3 styles. If you have Soul Split, it's great versus them. Otherwise, stay out of melee distance and choose to either protect from range or mage. Lastly, the Hydrix and Onyx Dragons have a spike attack that will travel along the ground, have an anti-fire as they can still breathe the fire and will do extra damage to you if you don't have one active, and watch for the spikes to travel along the floor and then move at least 2 squares away. Use Protect from Mage when you're coming across these guys. Let's start breaking down these bosses, as we have a lot to look at. The first boss you'll run into is Astellarn. They are non-aggressive until hit by you, so take your time to position correctly before starting the fight. There are a couple core mechanics that you should know and be ready for before starting this one. Astellarn has 4 mechanics to be aware of, and they are the Pulsar, the Black Hole, the Neutron Star, and the Acid Rain. These are all fairly simple mechanics, but they will all be happening at the same time, so make sure you understand completely how to handle them. The Pulsar is simply another source of DPS against you. Every so often, it will pulse out and deal unblockable typeless damage to everyone in the fight, regardless of distance. Make sure you take this out quickly, even going as far as to use threshold abilities on it is totally fine. The next mechanic you will see is the Black Hole. You'll see a message pop up that Astellarn has centered a wormhole on you, and you'll see a small debuff bar count down above your head. Once this bar drops to 0, a black hole will spawn on the ground underneath you, dealing constant typeless damage to those inside of it. The positioning of the black hole is going to become very important in a moment. The follow-up to the black hole is the Neutron Star. You'll see a message pop up that a neutron star is tracking you. You need to lead this star into the black hole to change it into a white hole. If you end up touching the star before it goes over the black hole, you will take a massive amount of damage. While standing in this area, you will gain bonus damage and be able to shred Astellarn. While in this circle, this is your chance to DPS as much as you can. If you have the ability Sunshine unlocked, you can use that to boost your damage even further. The last mechanic you will need to know is Acid Rain. At any given time, Astellarn will have rain pouring down on one quadrant of the arena. When positioning your black hole, make sure it's on the edge of 2 quadrants, so whichever side there is rain on, you can always safely step to the other. Your game plan for this fight will look something like this. Position yourself on the edge of 2 quadrants and get ready to start the fight. Pray Mage and do your standard DPS. Once a Pulsar spawns, kill it and be ready to center a wormhole in a good location. After that, step out of the black hole and get ready to drag the Neutron Star into it. Once the white hole is down, drop all of your most damaging abilities and try and do as much DPS as possible. After a bit, you'll have another black hole centered on yourself, position it correctly, and rinse and repeat. Whenever a new Pulsar spawns, make sure you kill that immediately. After a few rotations, you should be good to go. In the kill I did for this video, it took me 3 rotations to finish it complete. The second boss for this dungeon is Verak Lith. Of the 3, I think Verak Lith is the most straightforward, but can take the most time if you're not great with DPS. When entering the encounter, pray Mage and take note of the egg piles laying around. There will be Shock, Acid, and Ice. There are 4 mechanics to this boss fight, but really 2 that we need to talk about. The most important are the Spires and the Egg Bombs. Every so often you'll see a message pop up on your screen that the ground beneath you rumbles. This is your cue to switch to your shield and use Resonance. A Spire will burst up from the ground, and if we shield swapped correctly, will heal you for around 2,000. While this Spire is alive, Verak Lith will take no damage, so drop a Threshold into the Spire to get it down as quickly as possible. This is Verak Lith's most common mechanic, so get used to handling it and understanding how many abilities you need to take the Spire down. The second key ability is the Egg Bomb. Verak Lith will launch an egg up into the air of one of the 3 types. Your job is to follow the indicator and catch it, and then bring it to one of the piles that is different from its type to neutralize it. For example, if Verak Lith uses an acid egg, once you catch it, you need to bring it either to the ice pile or the shock pile. The other 2 mechanics of this fight are very simple and you beat them in the same way. Move. There is a Black Dragon Dive Bomb and Super Hot Flames. Both of these just require you to surge or run away and you'll be totally fine. Once you get comfortable handling these mechanics and comfortable with your health, try and find time to weave in abilities like Sunshine to get some extra damage in. The Gothic Staff is also very good here to increase your damage. For the first few kills, don't be surprised if it takes you 10 minutes to get them down. Don't worry about the time, just worrying about staying consistent and handling the mechanics as they come. Your game plan for this fight revolves less around having a set plan, and more being able to react when you need to shield switch, catch bombs, and move. Once you've handled all of these, boom, you are off to the final boss of the Elite Dungeon 2. The last boss in this video is the Blackstone Dragon. Overall, their mechanics aren't hard, but can be very punishing if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. The Blackstone Dragon has 4 phases that we'll need to talk about. At the start, there is nothing special. You will pray mage and deal damage. If your screen shakes, move a few squares away to dodge the spikes, and then continue to DPS. Once they get down to around 500,000 HP, they'll move into Phase 2. Phase 2 has the Blackstone Dragon take no damage and move to the center of the arena. 4 Shadow Hands will spawn on the 4 corners of their prison, and you need to kill them all before the phase is over. The hands will attack with dark marks that move across the floor and do magic damage. And they will have line of hands that reach up from the floor, dealing massive amounts of typeless, unblockable damage. If you stand on the squares I'm showing in this video, these hands will never hit you, and you will only need to deal with the mage attacks. You can choose to either resonance these for large healing, or you can use devotion to reduce all of the damage to 1. You can take as long or as short as you need with this section, as there is no time crunch. If you have Soul Split, this is a great time to get HP back before going into the next phases. Once the hands go down, you're on to Phase 3. Phase 3 is where you will see the Blackstone Dragon's fire attack for the first time. Blue sparkling flames will cover the ground of the arena, similar to Vindicta's fire trails. These fires are unaffected by super anti-fires and will do tons of unblockable damage if you're standing inside of them. Normally, these fires will only spawn in a descending spiral around the Blackstone Dragon themselves, but partway through Phase 3, the dragon will jump up into the air and land on different parts of the stage, causing flames to stretch out from underneath them. For this phase, we're going to cheat the system a little bit. We're going to move to this corner you see over here and wait for all of the jumping to stop. This way, we don't have to deal with any of the fire and we won't use any supplies. This phase is time gated, so it will end even if we don't interact at all. After that, you're onto the 4th and final phase. In this phase, the Blackstone Dragon will call her flames into a spiral towards her, and other than that, will be the exact same as Phase 1. Move from the spikes when your screen shakes, and stay out of the fire as much as you can. The phase ends when you drop the dragon to 0 hit points. And with that, you now know all the mechanics necessary to solo ED2. Let's take a look through the full kills and I can walk you through it in real time. Normally, I lower my stats and gear to do this, however I've had a ton of technical issues in this last week, and my recordings from those kills have corrupted. If you want me to upload those kills separately, let me know in the comments. Now, we're gonna finally look at a full walkthrough of this whole dungeon. This is sped up quite a bit, because if I didn't, it would take it about 40 minutes to get all the way through. But to get there, you will teleport with your Ring of Kinship to the Daemonheim location, and then teleport from the chest to the Dragonkin Labs. For the slimes, just group them in this corner and AoE them down while playing Protect from melee. You have to kill one more slime from the opposite side to unlock the barrier, and then you're onto the dragons. I choose to use Soul Split, you can choose to use Protect from Mage if you'd like. Finish off this next group of 4 dragons to unlock the next barrier. With the lava golems, I group them up in this corner and use my abilities like Tsunami, Detonate, and Sunshine to take care of them effectively. I also then lure the mobs from up above and bring them down to this bridge so I can focus them down. That way I don't have too many things on me at one time and I can focus on taking them all out without risking my life. I move up to the Celestial Dragons. These are the ones that you need to stun whenever they start to heal so that they stop healing. DPS them down as best you can, and if you stand here you won't have to tank them all at one time. You can see with this last one that if you're not on your ball, they can really start to heal up a lot, so make sure you focus when you're taking these guys down. With this group of 2, you will only need to take out the front one for the barrier to go down, so we'll just take out the front one and then move around this corner and take out this one here. As soon as this one goes down, the barrier to Astellarn is open and you can teleport out and resupply. Starting the Astellarn kill, I put on Protect from Mage and I walk in. I position myself directly in front of their face in between those 2 quadrants. That way, no matter which side the rain starts on, I'll be able to DPS them. I choose not to use many of my thresholds at the beginning of this fight, because I know the Pulsar will be coming first, so I can use my thresholds on that to cancel it out instead. As the first Pulsar spawns, I use Asphyxiate into a Sonic Wave into a Dragon's Breath, and that pretty much finishes it off. I use some extra abilities just to kill it, and then I position the wormhole directly in front of Astellarn. I wait for the neutron star to spawn in it, and then I walk into the white hole. Here, I drop my Daylight, and I use all of my abilities to try and do as much DPS as Astellarn as possible. I avoid the rain by keeping to the left, and I just use my thresholds whenever they're off cooldown, and I use the Gothic Staff to give myself some more affinity. I reposition the next wormhole directly in front of Astellarn again, and then I focus on the Pulsar that spawned on my left, and drag the neutron star into the black hole. There are a lot of mechanics to focus on here, but most of them are rather simple, albeit they do a lot of damage. As long as you take your time and keep your health high, you will totally be fine for this fight. This is just a rinse and repeat cycle of me doing the same thing over and over again, and luring the neutron star into the black hole every time. With this Pulsar, I do my classic DPS rotation. I may have just been able to finish the boss here, but I chose to err on the side of safety rather than speed. As I drop the last black hole I'll need, I step off to the side and wait for the neutron star to spawn so that I can move into the black hole. Thankfully it spawns directly inside of it, and I'm able just to walk in and DPS the rest of Astellarn's HP down without much of a problem. With that, I've defeated the first boss and I'm able to move on to the next section. The next section, there are 2 more Celestial Dragons that you need to take out. Make sure you use your stuns effectively like I said before, but you only need to take out these 2 and not the third one. Going on, I choose to take out the lava spiders as they'll follow you around and deal a lot of constant damage if you're not fast enough, so I choose to take them out and just stop myself from worrying. Here, I use Soul Split and I start to take out the first 2 lava strike worms that I see. After that, I'm on to the Black Dragons. Make sure you have an anti-fire here, as they'll do a lot of damage if you don't have it. I choose to use Soul Split as I'm able to out-heal them, but if you're taking too much damage, feel free to use Protect from Magic instead. The next long section of this is just Black Dragons, so if you know how to kill them, you'll have no problem. You don't need to kill the first 2 lava strike worms in this area, so just surge all the way to the back and kill these 4 stuck in the back here. Once you do that, the barrier will open and you'll be met with even more Black Dragons. It's worth noting, if you have a Black Dragon Slayer task, or even just a Dragon Slayer task in general, ED2 is a great place to go, as all of these dragons would count towards your Slayer task. As this guy goes down, we've now unlocked the area for Verak Lith. You can teleport out again, and then teleport back in with your new gear and new supplies. Here, I chuck on Protect from Mage, and I just start my basic DPS rotation. I use the Gothic Staff to get myself a little bit more damage, and then I switch back to my Wand and Orb. All I'm looking out for in the beginning here is the text box that pops up telling me that the ground rumbles beneath my feet, and then I'd switch to my Shield and Resonance, get myself a heal, and then work on taking down the Spire. After the Spire goes down, you can see almost immediately afterwards Verak Lith shoots an egg up into the sky, so I run over to grab it, and then I'll drop it into one of the 2 piles which it is not. In this case, I drop it off into the acid pile. That takes care of the egg, and I'm free to DPS for the rest of my time. Here another Spire spawns, so I use my Resonance ability, and then I use the extra damage from Sunshine to take it down with just my basic abilities, saving my thresholds for the boss. Here we see for the first time a black dragon is dive-bogging me. All I need to do is just move to the side and it will miss completely. These abilities are very simple, especially if you have the timing, and if you're worried about the timing, just surge away. They won't keep up with you and you'll be totally safe. The rest of this fight is honestly rinse and repeat for the whole thing, so I will skip ahead in just a moment here after this next spire. I take the spire down easily, and then I'm free to turn my attention back to Verak Lith. But here, we've skipped ahead towards the end of the fight, and you can see the tornadoes down to the south are from his super hot fire attack. I've simply just moved to the side and they're no longer hitting me. And unfortunately, Time Spire makes this kill last longer than it should. At the end of the day, I'm able to finish it off completely and get the kill on Verak Lith. After this, you'll run back to the treasure chest before, and you'll now have unlocked a new teleport ability on it to the 4th slot. That will take you to where you need to go to find the trash mobs right before the Blackstone Dragon. Here is the teleport location, and you're able to run all the way to the back here, ignoring a lot of these dragons. You have to kill the one closest to the barrier, and then the 3 gemstone dragons right next to it, and you'll be able to move on. I choose to use Soul Split here because I have a super anti-fire active. If you don't have a super anti-fire, you can choose to use Pray Mage instead. Move up around this corner and try and get stuck into this corner here so that the other 2 dragons are stuck on the low ground and are not able to auto-attack me. If you move too far away from this wall, they will be able to walk around and they will also start attacking. I ignore these 2 guys and I head down into this corner over here. You just have to take out these 2 gemstone dragons and then you'll be free to move on past this barrier. With that, you're onto the last 2 trash mobs you have to fight in this whole dungeon, which are these 2 guys right here. Once they go down, the barrier to the Blackstone Dragon will go down, and you're able to teleport out and then teleport directly back here, losing the aggro of the trash mobs. So resupply, get some gear, and head back in. Now we're on to the Blackstone Dragon. Chuck up your Protect from Mage and start to do your normal DPS rotation. There's nothing special here besides the occasional screen shake into spikes that we've talked about earlier. It's really rinse and repeat. As long as you keep a little bit of distance from them if you can, you'll be totally fine. Whenever you start to take damage, just eat up, and whenever you have a chance, use your thresholds or the Gothic Staff special ability to deal some good damage. I'm simply just moving away from the spikes and continuing to DPS, and if they're ever close enough to use melee on me, I try and move back a little bit further. I sped this up a little bit because really it is the same thing over and over until the Shadow Hands. I use my second Daylight here, my second Sunshine here, and just do my best to do as much damage as I can. You can see the dragon stops taking damage here and the Shadow Hands spawn, so I move to the location that we showed earlier, and then I start DPSing the hands down. I choose to use Soul Split to gain some of my HP back, but if you don't have that, just camp Protect from Mage and tank the hits. You can also use Devotion to reduce them to 1, or you can use Resonance to heal from them. I drop a Sunshine, and all I'm doing here is just DPSing, and then switching to Protect from Mage whenever the dark bubbles come in. This is probably the most simple section of this fight, especially if you're doing the safe spot. Once the 2 hands are done, I surge over to the same spot on the other side and just do the exact same thing. You'll see the hands aren't exactly synced up like they used to be, but that's not a big deal as I just have to hang on my Protect from Mage a little bit longer than normal. You can see that as I get to the end of this phase, I've used, I believe, 1 sip of Brew Dose, and that is it. This section is very good for helping you stay high on supplies. As the last hand goes down, we're on to phase 3. This is the first phase with Dragonfire. As you see, it will spiral in, descending down towards the Blackstone Dragon. As long as you're in a safe spot, the Blackstone Dragon will stop attacking you while doing this, so you're welcome to turn on Soul Split if you have it and heal back up your HP. Just continue to DPS the boss down until they get to the point where they jump away. Whenever you see the spiral in like this, turn on Soul Split if you have it, and just heal back up. There's literally no downside. And here the dragon jumps away, so we just head up to this north corner over here and hang out. It's extremely rare that the dragon will ever land anywhere close to you, so you can mostly just AFK in this spot and adrenaline stall if you want to. After about 30 to 45 seconds, the dragon will stop jumping around, and that is when you're welcome to run back out and start DPSing again. The dragon doesn't take damage while jumping around, so there's no point in you chasing it around. Here you can see that the dragon now takes damage again, so we're able to come in and start the fourth phase. The fourth phase is exactly like phase 3. The dragon will use the spiraling flames, and that is about it. There will be the occasional spike, but there is nothing else special to this phase. It's just a matter of getting the HP down to 0. Whenever the spiral comes in, use your Soul Split to heal up if you have it. If not, feel free to just take that time to use all of the abilities that you can think of, and by no time you should have it done. These bosses are very simple, but they can take a while, so make sure the most important part is staying calm, collected, and knowing what the mechanics do and how you can best take advantage of them. And just like that, the Blackstone Dragon falls, and you are welcome to collect all of your loot for the run. You now know how to solo the first of 3 elite dungeons, the Dragonkin Laboratories. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this guide helpful, please help me out by leaving a like, and if you like more than one of my videos, please consider subscribing. I'm starting a new series called Backseat Bossing soon, so if you'd like to be included in a series where I coach my viewers through various bosses, leave your Runescape name as well as what boss you've been hoping to beat in the comments, and I will pick some randomly to be featured. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Zingy out.